Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
It might be the most visible sign of San Diego's housing crisis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A proposal to ban homeless encampments on sidewalks, parks, and other public places got its first hearing today. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the controversial ordinance comes as the city's downtown homeless population is still near record high numbers.
In front of a nearly full room at San Diego City Hall Thursday afternoon, the unauthorized camping ordinance got its first hearing by the Land Use and Housing Committee. There were lots of big emotions, and residents were split on the matter. The ordinance would prohibit people from setting up tents within 2 blocks of schools, homeless shelters, trolley tracks and transportation hubs, parks and waterways, regardless of shelter bed availability, and anywhere on public property if shelter beds are available. San Diego District 3 Council member Stephen Whitburn proposed the ordinance.
Residents across our city are deeply concerned about the public health and safety issues created by the proliferation of encampments in their communities. These encampments pose hazards to people living in them and to our neighborhoods.
Eloisa Gutierrez is currently sleeping on the streets downtown. She says the proposal needs more nuance.
Y no todos hacemos las mismas cosas. Si ellos pusieran las leyes más en la gente que necesita, estaría mejor.
Groups like Alliance San Diego have come out in opposition.
It would basically shut out unhoused San Diegans from almost every single part of the city. So we stand firmly against this because we feel it is a violation of our human right to shelter and not the right answer to the problem.
Proper enforcement of the encampment ban may be difficult, and there's a severe shortage of available shelter beds in the city, says Father Joe's Deacon Jim Vargas.
But we need different types of shelters. Safe villages is an example for people who don't want congregate settings. We need harm reduction shelters. We need sober living shelters. Can't be a one-size-fits-all because we have to meet the necessities of the unique individuals.
The unauthorized camping ordinance would have to be approved by the full city council. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And a big reason why more people are on the street is due to high rent prices. And it's not just here in San Diego. Coming up, we have a story on how evictions are up across the country as pandemic rental protections fade away. Business at the state capitol in Sacramento is back to normal tonight after a security scare this morning. The Capitol building was evacuated this morning and on heightened alert throughout the day. The Senate Rules Committee says it was due to some sort of credible threat. California Highway Patrol says it may be connected to a shooting in the neighboring town of Roseville. Law enforcement say the threat has since been cleared. The same San Diego law firm that helped hold companies accountable for getting children hooked on vaping is now targeting the harmful effects of social media. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has more on a new lawsuit filed against several social media giants that claims the apps are endangering millions of young users.
It isn't the best spring break weather, but Miguel Sanchez brought his grandchildren here to Coronado Tidelands Park for some fun this afternoon. His twin grandsons and granddaughter enjoy playing outside. They also enjoy their cell phones and playing on social media like most of their classmates.
They could have social media to make more friends because usually that's where you find more friends and build more communication.
I use it sometimes for learning and sometimes for fun.
It is not the fun these attorneys are worried about. The Franz Law Group has filed a lawsuit representing 21 school districts around the country. The districts claim the mental health of their students is being hurt by algorithms social media platforms use to get children hooked.
We don't need these secret little algorithms out there trying to get you addicted when you don't know you're being addicted. So we're going to try to prevent that. That's the key to this whole case.
The 107-page lawsuit lists evidence of mental health harms suffered by children using social media for hours every day. It specifically targets the major social media platforms and their parent companies that include Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Alphabet, owner of YouTube. Here in San Diego County, there are 2 districts involved in the social media lawsuit: Coronado Unified School District and also Oceanside Unified. According to attorneys, in total, there are more than 200,000 students covered by the lawsuit across the country. The Franz Law Group has most recently gone after vaping products. They joined lawsuits from several states against Juul Labs. Just this week, taking part of the $462 million settlement Juul agreed to pay for marketing nicotine to minors. Social media is next.
It would help make social media use more healthy, and it would be better for children to not be consuming these negative images all the time.
The social media companies aren't saying much about this new lawsuit, but TikTok's CEO used his platform to talk about what his company is doing.
I'll be testifying before Congress later this week to share all that we're doing to protect Americans using the app and deliver on our mission to inspire creativity and to bring joy.
Miguel Sanchez says he'll keep close watch on his grandchildren, on the playground and online. MG Perez, KPBS News.
Starting this weekend, San Diego will have more of its libraries open on Sunday. Sunday service was scaled back during the pandemic, and now the city says it has enough staff to resume Sunday hours at 14 locations. Sunday hours will be from 1 to 5 p.m. The city had to fill hundreds of positions that were lost during the pandemic. A proposal to move railroad tracks away from the North County coast will not be cheap, and today a San Diego congressman took federal railroad officials to see why the move is urgently needed. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has the story.
Portions of the coastal rail line need to be relocated, and Representative Mike Levin wants to show the urgency to federal officials firsthand. On Thursday, Federal Railroad Administrator Amit Bose joined Levin on a train ride from Sorrento Valley to Solana Beach for an up-close look at the Del Mar Bluffs.
It's just a matter of time, I think we all know, before these tracks will be over the cliff's edge, and this vital transportation link continues to be at risk.
Levin highlighted how coastal erosion and climate change will continue to impact the bluffs and make the relocation project more urgent.
Their operation will be at risk unless we take the actions necessary, not just for the short term, but again for the long term.
One operation that's already been interrupted is a San Clemente rail line, which has been undergoing emergency repair work since September.
That's been 6 months, and we know that's taken a great toll on the millions of passengers, roughly 8 million passengers a year that travel on that corridor, as well as the economic impact of freight not being able to travel as it normally would.
Since rail service is still down, Levin and Administrator Bose drove to San Clemente to see the progress. There, Levin announced plans to seek additional federal funding for the rail relocation projects.
Just as we've been working with stakeholders on the planning and the relocation in Del Mar, we must do the same in Orange County. So in the coming days, I'm going to be formally submitting a federal community project request for $4 million to support the OCTA, the Orange County Transportation Authority, in conducting a study for the rail relocation in Orange County spanning 11 miles.
Administrator Bose said the time to ask for federal funding is now, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law.
It provides the funding, the tools, and framework to lay the foundation for the 21st century rail system that the country needs and that's so long overdue.
The announcement comes as transportation agencies prepare to restore full passenger rail service between San Diego and Orange County on Monday. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
San Diego is home to many DACA recipients, also known as Dreamers. And today, President Joe Biden says there will soon be more options for them to get health insurance.
They're American in every way except on paper. It's past time for Congress to give Dreamers a pathway to citizenship. And while we work toward that goal alongside Dreamers, advocates, members of Congress, we need to give Dreamers the opportunities and support they deserve. So today, my administration is announcing our plan to expand health coverage for DACA recipients by allowing them to enroll in a plan through the Affordable Care Act or through Medicaid.
Here in California, the ACA marketplace is known as Covered California. The DACA program allows temporary legal status for those who were brought to the U.S. as children without proper documentation. The Biden administration estimates nearly 600,000 people could benefit from the new health care policy. Sign-ups are expected to begin next month. America's rise in overdose deaths is largely blamed on the use of fentanyl. But now health experts are warning about an even more dangerous street drug that mixes fentanyl with animal tranquilizer. Ivan Rodriguez tells us more about what's being called an emerging threat.
A potentially deadly drug mix spreading across the U.S.
in almost all 50 states now.
Fentanyl cut with xylazine, the animal sedative, can do major damage to humans, leaving some users scared and wounded.
It removes 7 pounds of flesh and 1.5 liters of pus. It's been open for 21 months. That's how horrible it is. Trying to this. Doesn't let your body heal.
For the first time since the passing of a 2018 law allowing it to do so, the Biden administration taking the unprecedented step of officially declaring a substance an emerging threat. It means some of President Biden's more than $46 billion drug budget request to Congress can be used to respond. The money could help pay for drug testing, data collecting, and developing treatments.
We're sending a clear message to producers and traffickers of illicit xylazine and illicit fentanyl that we're going to respond quicker.
An uphill battle in an ever-changing drug landscape.
Both the types of drugs have changed from predominantly organic to predominantly synthetics, but the way drugs are bought and sold have also changed. Now all you need is a phone in the palm of your hand and a social media app.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
The risk of drug abuse is often intertwined with homelessness, and more people are being forced out of their homes due to eviction. We've seen it here in San Diego. Gabe Cohen shows us how the trend is playing out across the U.S.
Once a week, Houston residents pack into one of the busiest eviction courts in Texas.
Good morning.
On this day, more than 200 cases before noon.
The plaintiff for possession of the premises to the plaintiff, in favor of the plaintiff.
As landlords take back their properties and families plead to stay in their homes.
That's what scares me the most.
Jonathan Morrison is being evicted. He's been struggling with rent, he says, since his wife, the family breadwinner, died in December, leaving him to raise their daughter alone.
The place to go. My 10-year-old is scared too.
In several cities, including Houston, evictions are surging, even beyond pre-pandemic norms. More than 5 million U.S. households are behind on rent. Experts blame a perfect storm. Rents keep rising amid high inflation, COVID moratoriums on evictions are ending, and pandemic programs, especially rental assistance, are running dry. In mid-March, a Texas rent relief program had to stop accepting applications just 2 days after starting, overwhelmed by the demand.
It's just a simple hard times.
Winona Brown says she fell behind on rent in February after losing her job. A photo of her kids in one hand, an eviction notice in the other. She says she wants to pay off her debt, but fears she may have to move.
I've tried to make it, and it's tough to do it on your own.
Some cities have bucked this trend, largely thanks to new tenant protections, like more funding for free legal assistance during an eviction, which few cities or states guarantee. Advocates say it's kept far more families in their homes. Evictions disproportionately impact Black and Hispanic communities and can make it far tougher for families to find homes later. Kathy Bonilla, a single mom 8 months pregnant with her 5th child, says she lost her government housing vouchers last year because of a paperwork issue. And now she's fighting a looming eviction with legal aid from a nonprofit.
It's like someone got their hands around my neck. I want to give up, but my family like, don't give up. If you give up, what about your kids? But I had it up to here already.
Erica Bowman is packing up her home to avoid packing into a courtroom. She says she's struggled to keep up with rent in recent months since it went up more than $200 right as she started battling cancer.
Everything just kind of hit all at once at that moment.
She and her kids need to be out in the coming days, unsure where they'll go.
Trying to continue to stay positive and keep a smile on my face, and to also not allow my children to feel the pressures of what I'm going through at this time has been extremely difficult.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, a court decision once again changes the rules for abortion pills. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The city of Fort Lauderdale says even their best planning couldn't prepare them for something like this. Gloria Pazmino shows us the damage from a storm that broke records for the amount of rain dumped on the city.
Historic flooding in South Florida Wednesday.
What we're seeing here is a 1,000-year incident. No city could have planned for this.
The city of Fort Lauderdale paralyzed.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, you can see how shooken up I am, you know. I didn't plan on waking up like this.
I've been working in Fort Lauderdale for over 23 years, and I've never seen anything like this.
Residents taking in the damage after spending the night stranded in their homes.
Yeah, we lost everything.
More than 25 inches of rain fell in just 24 hours, according to preliminary reports from the National Weather Service, marking the rainiest day in Fort Lauderdale history.
All right, I'm going to go back and get your mommy and daddy, all right, bud?
First responders out in force, wading through waist-high water to help trapped residents and motorists.
I've been stuck here now for about 40 minutes. So I've been watching the cars thinking I could make it, but I've had the car stall in water before, and so I'm just like, I'll just hang out.
At Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, a ground stop Wednesday, then closure. Stranded travelers trying to navigate as runways turned into lakes.
Trying to get back home, and they're telling us that the airport is closed, and so at this point we don't know what to do.
The airport will remain closed through Thursday. Officials plan to reopen it at 5 a.m. Friday. The National Weather Service is calling the floods a 1-in-1,000-year event or greater, and more rain is expected later today. Gloria Pazmino, KPBS News.
Our cool, damp weather will continue through the night, but we do start to see some changes during the day tomorrow. So if we take a look at our weather headlines for you, we have the deep marine layer with us. That continues through the night, but during the day tomorrow, we'll start to see the clouds break up and increase sunshine, and that will lead us some dry and warmer weather over the weekend. Sunday should be the warmest day. And then next week, the onshore flow returns, so that means we'll turn a little bit cooler, and some spots will get a little breezier. So for tonight, rather cloudy, temperatures hovering around 52 in the metro. Surrounding areas, we'll see temperatures dropping into the 40s from Escondido down to El Cajon and over towards Ramona. Borrego Springs is down to 47. We're in the 30s, Mount Laguna, and in Campo. Here's the way it looks on our futurecast, and notice the swirl of clouds here. This is our little eddy of low pressure there, so that's responsible for the clouds, but that begins to break up during the day tomorrow. So we should start off the day with low clouds and then a brightening sky. Temperature still a little bit on the cool side. Ramona at 61, San Diego 63, Oceanside 63. Borrego Springs warms up to 78. Take a look at Friday's weather. Well, the cool air will start to retreat, and then on Saturday and Sunday, should be pretty nice. So let's go to our extended forecast for you. You can see our cool day Friday with clouds giving way to sun, and then milder over the weekend. Next week starts to turn cooler, some clouds returning. Inland sections, temperatures on the rise. We'll be in the 70s over the weekend. Next week will start to turn cooler again. And as we get our way up to the mountains, we'll see temperatures on the rise. On Sunday, we're up to 54. Winds pick up and it turns cooler next week. And in the desert, well, it'll stay dry here. Temperatures will be on the rise into the weekend and then starts to cool off with a gusty wind next week. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Nicholas Ravelis died last month from pancreatic cancer. He was the director of education at San Diego Opera for more than 2 decades. Tomorrow, his opera, Ghosts, will have its world premiere at the Balboa Theater. And KPBS arts reporter Beth Acamando has a preview.
Last summer, Nicholas Reveles was debuting one opera at San Diego International Fringe Festival and prepping another for a world premiere at San Diego Opera.
I'm very excited about that, to be produced by my home company, as well as, it's a big professional opera company in the United States, so I hope we'll get some notice for it.
And what delighted him even more was that the opera was in a genre he loved.
The horror is up front and center.
Blood and bile! Blood and bile! I watched him heave, cough.
But last October, Reveles was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He died just 6 weeks before this Friday's world premiere of Ghosts, an evening of 3 one-act horror-inspired operas. But with a title like Ghosts, perhaps he knew he would be haunting the rehearsal hall.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, absolutely. We joke about it, it's in the text. We can say, oh, that's Nick right there for sure, that moment. Or it feels like somehow we're still exchanging ideas and asking for his blessing on the choices we make.
He gave me this beautiful crystal that I keep in my pocket or by my music stand, and every time I'm stuck, I'll just grab the crystal and hold it and flip it around in my hand, and all of a sudden the ideas will come to me. So Nick is definitely here with us, laughing, crying, getting very involved, and making sure that we're going to present an amazing premiere to commemorate him.
And then when it's over, total blackout. I mean, Nick would love this.
Back in December, Reveles was in hospice, but still working with director John de Los Santos.
I just told him, creepy, I want jump scares, I want everything a horror movie would have.
Reveles and de Los Santos bonded over some shared passions.
Well, Nick loved horror, and I love horror, but we also love opera, and I think that something that both horror and opera have in common is they elicit strong emotions, strong feelings.
I'm a great believer that you can approach anything through opera. I absolutely believe in the genre. I think, when you sing things, the story, the drama is more heightened. It becomes more important. It becomes bigger, and I like the bigness of that.
That was Reveles from May last year. In December, the passion was still there, but cancer was taking a toll.
It is an opera in black and white. And when I think horror, I think black and white. And when I say that, I mean that the sound colors, the colors from the orchestra are even kind of black and white.
Maybe that's because when Reveles was 8 years old, his mother introduced him to James Whale's 1931 black and white film, Frankenstein.
And from then on, I was hooked on horror. I don't know what it is really, but there's something about the darkness and about being scared and about telling a story that might frighten people, even just a little bit, that I've always enjoyed.
De Los Santos enjoyed collaborating with Reveles to define the ghosts of the opera.
Ghosts are not figures in sheets. They are memories. They are regrets. They are unknown and unanswered questions that we have to confront.
Ghosts can be trauma, can be experiences, can be people who we aren't able to shed emotionally from our lives.
People like Reveles that we want to hold on to. Ghosts not only let San Diego Opera pay tribute to his memory, but it also provides General Director David Bennett with a perfect opportunity to offer audiences a detour from traditional opera.
That's why it's really an honor for us to produce this, because there's so much in this work that's unusual and unexpected, but there's also so much in it that is in many ways traditional.
Reveles expressed hope that the opera would have a future beyond this weekend, and Ghosts would be the perfect legacy for a man who devoted his life to being an ambassador for opera and whose heart always belonged to horror. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
An art exhibit at the Mingay International Museum is showing off something that you normally see at children's birthday parties. The 80 Pinatas from Latinx artists around the country are works of art. KPBS arts reporter Julia Dixon-Evans gives us a closer look.
I think it all started when I was around 12 years old. I lived in Tijuana,
My first job was at a Mexican candy place where they sold piñatas. They made and sold piñatas.
Artist Deanna Benavides makes piñatas with a message. Some of them are small, like a series of remote-controlled border crosser vehicles, but some are gigantic. There's a pair of huge shoes, an oversized set of keys. They represent the rituals and actions taken by women to feel safe.
So this is a piece called Es Muy Noche para Andar Sola.
It's written on the shoes and translates to, "It's too late to be out alone."
And that's usually a phrase that we'll hear from, your mom or an adult when you're maybe a teenager.
The piñata is inherently violent. You hit it with a stick, but there's also humor, joy, and approachability. It's something Benavides taps into when creating activist art.
It makes sense to be able to tell political messages through the piñatas or tell tough stories about, anything, being this militarized border and being a woman and having to navigate both. I think it's kind of like a good way to ease in an audience.
Benavides' piñatas don't look like ones you'd find in a party store, and it's an art form you're also not likely to see in a museum. But the Mingue recently bought 2 of her piñatas for its permanent collection, the shoes and an oversized rosary, a symbol of wishing for safety.
Well, it's been like part of this delirious dream that I've had since I was 12, where I've wanted to save piñatas and I wanted to find a way to preserve them forever.
Now 2 piñatas will live on at the Mingue. Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
And the Mingue's Pinatas, the high art of celebration, closes at the end of the month. And all ages drop-in pinata making workshop runs 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and that is tomorrow. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.